Hello and welcome to the Board of Health meeting of June 7th, 2021. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, and the conference ID number is 206-679-199#. Despite our best efforts, if we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chairman John Beckley.
Thank you, Judy. I'd like to start tonight with a roll call to establish the members of the Board of Health who are on the call at present. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are present. Dr. Noble Hanson.
Present.
Ron Broman. Ed Sheehan.
Ed Sheehan.
Carol Boyce.
Present.
John Beckley, I'm here. Dr. Alan Ward, alternate.
Here.
Okay. And Dr. Dick Edwards, alternate.
Present.
Okay, good. Okay, we're ready to go then. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight, the first of which is a variance hearing and approval of IA Technology for 517 Stony Hill Road, LLC. And I think Thad, Thad, this is your application, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Thad, why don't you introduce it?
Thank you much. So for the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast, representing Mike and Kate Earls. They're proposing to take down the existing dwelling there and put up a new dwelling pool house. With that proposal, there's an additional bedroom, and so we're utilizing the nitrogen loading regulations, adding an innovative alternative septic system, all the standard deed restrictions, in order to put in that additional bedroom on the new construction. We have a septic system that's fully compliant with Title V and local regulations, and it's located more than 40 feet from Cranberry Lane, which I know is a concern of one of the abutters. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions from Board of Health members to Thad? Go ahead.
This is Noble. Does the 4-employee workshop on the property go away?
That it does.
What was that used for, Thad, years ago?
It was a woodworking shop at one point. It was a landscaping shop at another.
Okay. It certainly looks like an old structure in a community, in a neighborhood that's far different now than what it must have been.
Yeah, actually, that used to be it was a lot of cranberry bog out here.
Really?
And I have a different plan that shows that the original structure was on its own parcel. And that was tight. I mean, we're talking a 2,000 square foot parcel with a 1,500 square foot house.
Wow. Right. Other questions? This is fairly straightforward. There's no variances required in terms of setback distances or anything of that sort, right, Thad?
Correct. We're 104 feet away from the BVW. We're more than 10 feet off of the property lines, 20 feet off the foundation. There is a perched water table out here, which is why the septic system itself is raised. But that's all been taken care of with grading.
Now refresh my memory, a perched water table is a condition where some of the groundwater was held at a higher level
Correct.
than the groundwater below because of some impermeable formation. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And in this case, we have a mucky layer that's, it's down there a few feet, but we have the proposal to remove that restrictive layer. And it was described as sandy muck, weak strength, damp, wet in one of the holes. But the proposal is to remove that to get down to the good sand and then bring sand back up to the level of the system itself, maintaining an adequate height from the perched water table.
Where is the reserve area? Ed Sheehan.
Ed, if you look in the far right corner of the plan, there's a detail. And
Yeah,
on the detail to the right of the leaching area, there he shows, Thad shows the reserve area. So it's in the detail in the upper right-hand corner of the plan, first page of the plan.
In blue ink.
Did you see it?
oh, I see the tank, and, then I see another, what looks like another tank.
Yeah,
go-
in between the field and the tanks is where the leaching area is going to be. The reserve area. In between the proposed leaching area and the tanks.
It is marked though, Ed, on the upper right-hand corner of the
Plan itself.
yes. We have a recommendation in a memo to the board members dated 6/2 from Judy that recommends approval of the application, and then Judy outlines 9 conditions that we should attach to an approval if that's what we decide to do. So
Yeah, this is Noble. I had one other question. It's an old issue, and that is, as I understand it, we wind up being the entity that determines that this house plan is actually a 4-bedroom house. So you have all the extra rooms and archways. On this plan, it doesn't show how large the archways are. The bonus room has a bath, media room, gym, but it's kind of an old issue for me. But I'm assuming, Judy, you've been satisfied that these are archways and, because it's not really specified on the plan, I guess.
Yeah, this plan is not very detailed. I will need to look at a more detailed plan, obviously when the building permit comes in. It looks to me like they're counting, Thad, maybe you can clarify, is the pool house is unheated, so, okay, that's not considered a bedroom. So the bonus room, I think, would be considered the 4th bedroom.
So we have 1 on the first floor and then 3 on the east side of the building, and the bonus room would be open to not be a bedroom.
Oh, okay, I see, I'm sorry. Yep.
Right.
Okay, so we'll have to look closely at that bonus room. That will have to be made a 5 to 6 foot cased opening from that hallway there at the top of the stairs.
It's Noble. And then in the basement, there's a media room and a gym, and then an adjacent bathroom in with a sauna. So I would,
If those are below grade,
below grade, yeah.
then they won't count as bedrooms.
And
Well,
they do have some windows on those, but they aren't going to meet the ceiling height that's requisite there. I've reviewed this with the architect, and I believe Bill Riley reviewed this with Judy. And they will make this work so that these don't count as bedrooms and they meet the 4.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it. I don't believe I've talked to Bill Riley about this, but I will look closely at the plans when they come into the building department. John, I just noticed Bob Duncanson has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Bob, you have the floor.
Thanks, John. And just a quick question for David, and that's how he's addressing the stormwater runoff with the raised septic system and the grades that are pretty tight all the way down to the road.
Thad.
Sorry, Thad. Sorry, Thad.
Same difference. We do have everything coming down to a low point at the end of the driveway, and we have a proposed drainage structure that's going to be down there. We're going to break through the perched water table and get down to the good material below and take care of the stormwater down there.
Yeah, I mean, that works for the driveway, but how are you dealing with it just on the graded slope that comes right down to the edge of the road?
We can make sure that there's a swale down there so that that water deflects down to the driveway.
Okay, that's fine. I think we ought to see that on the site plan.
Sure.
I would think that once that hillside is grassed over, there shouldn't be a huge runoff problem, but until that point, it could be an issue. So a swale would be helpful.
We can certainly add that.
That makes sense. Any other questions? Are we ready for a motion?
This is Noble. I'll
Ed
make a
Sheehan.
motion that we
Motion.
approve with Judy reading the conditions and that she review the final building plan for archways to the bonus room on the second floor
And the swale.
and the swale.
Okay, now, can we get a second on that motion?
Second, Ed Sheehan.
Okay, Ed, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion that's on the table in the second? Anybody?
Would you like me to read the conditions? Or wait?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, the applicant should restrict this property to a maximum of 4 bedrooms and record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry. The applicant shall submit a copy of the executed deed restriction to the Health Division. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners directs the connection of this property to the municipal sewer when it becomes available. This covenant shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, and a copy of the executed covenant shall be submitted to the Board of Health. Throughout its life, the system shall be under an O&M, operation and maintenance agreement. The O&M shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any mass certified operator of the appropriate grade that has received training by the company on the operation of the system. Effluent from the system shall be monitored at least twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units certified for general use, revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, a lab test of the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standard of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab. Water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or their agent for review and possible modifications of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineered site plan will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent. and this variance is granted pursuant to the State Environmental Code Title V and the Town of Chatham Subsurface Sewage Regulations, and is valid for 1 year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1 year period, or the variance shall expire.
Thank you, Judy. Does any member of the public that's on the call wish to comment on this motion before we vote? Hearing none, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion that's on the table. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
John Beckley, I approve. Dr. Alan Ward.
I approve, but I'll miss that old house.
Yeah, I drive by it a lot too. You're right. Dr. Dick Edwards.
Approve.
Okay, so the motion is approved, the variance is awarded, and Thad, you've got what you came to request, so
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
very good. Okay, let's go to item number 2 on the agenda for today, which is a show cause hearing for John McGrath at 32 Mill Hill Road. Judy, have we heard from Mr. McGrath at all in response to today's invitation to attend?
I have not. John, are you on the call?
John McGrath, are you on the call?
Doesn't sound like he's here. I have not spoken to him. I did send the letter, certified. I don't know if Diane could note whether did we get any green cards back, Diane? On the certified mail I sent out, do you know? Diane, you're muted.
I don't see it, Judy, that we
Okay.
received it.
So I
Did we-
can't confirm that he got it, but I did send it out, so.
Do you, Judy, is it customary to physically deliver a copy of the order and put it on the front door?
I can do that, but I did not do that this time, and I sent it out, and Diane was out. I didn't even send a regular copy, which is problematic, because usually I'll send a regular mail and certified mail, but I forgot to send the regular mail one, so I can't confirm whether he's received it or not. So
Maybe
not-
maybe we need to ask town council what we need to do at this point to assure legal service of the notice. And then proceed with whatever action we vote on tonight.
I don't even have, excuse me, this is Diane. I don't even have it returned from the post office undeliverable yet. So they wait a period of time, and if they don't accept it, it will come back to us, but I don't have anything yet.
Well, I mean, people certainly are motivated to refuse to accept notice, so there has to be a workaround for that. But let's find out from town council what we do next in order to get to that point. I drove past the location today to do an inspection to see whether there were any significant changes since I was there last, and I did not see any significant changes. So I think it's safe to assume-
I agree.
Yeah, I think we can assume that no action has been taken on his behalf, no significant action to address. And so I think that we're at a point where we need to vote to proceed with the next legal steps to arrange for the site to be cleaned up by the town or the town's agent or the town's contractor. Noble?
Dick Edwards, so there was quite a delay before this letter was sent after the meeting. It wasn't sent until the 27th, which is like 10 days ago. You know, it can take 10 days to mail a letter from Chatham to your next door neighbor today, because it goes to Providence and back. Yeah,
Yeah, that was the date, I believe it went out.
yeah. So that's quite a delay after the meeting, and I.
Hey, John.
Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, what I might suggest to the board is maybe just the easiest thing to do is continue tonight's hearing to your next meeting. And in that intervening period, we will confer with town council. And we can also make sure that Mr. McGrath is hand-served a copy of the letter by a police officer or police officer in Judy, whichever is more appropriate, to make sure that he gets notification of the meeting.
Right.
Yeah, this is Noble. Yeah, I agree with what Bob said, that we should make sure that he's been legally served first, and we can, you know, document it, and then move ahead to the next step. I drove by it today, and I go down there a lot. I get wood down there and dump brush and get mulch and all. And so over the last 6 months, I'd say bottom line, there has been no significant difference in 6 months down there.
Okay.
Ed Sheehan, I agree. He's just playing games.
But we do need to make sure he's been legally served.
Yeah, I think
Has
that's,
the car been removed from the road? There was an Audi TT on the road.
that's
It
still
was kind
there.
of a wreck.
Car is still there.
That's still there.
Yeah.
There's
All
a
right.
work- Yeah,
I like Dr. Duncanson's suggestion that we defer or carry this issue onto the next Board of Health meeting agenda, and in the interim, that we take whatever steps are necessary to assure legal service of the May 27th notice. Are the board members okay with that for now?
Ed Sheehan, I agree.
Noble, I agree. Do we have to vote on anything?
I don't know.
Yes, you should take a vote to continue it to your next hearing day, which I assume Judy or Diane will be the 21st. 2 weeks from tonight.
Yes, 21st.
Okay, yeah, that should be in your motion to a date certain.
All right, can I have a motion from somebody to continue this agenda item to
Ed Sheehan,
our next Board of Health meeting, which will be June 21st? Ed, are you making that motion?
Ed Sheehan, approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Noble, second.
Okay. Okay, so when I call your name, please indicate whether you support the motion to continue this agenda item to the next Board of Health meeting on 6/21. And in the interim, a focus on getting assurances that the notice of May 27 has been legally served. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
I approve. Dr. Ward,
I approve.
Dr. Edwards.
Approve.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do with this agenda item from now on, from now into the future. All right, thank you. Let's go to hearing issue or agenda item number 3, which is an update and a discussion regarding COVID-19 with Dr. Duncanson. Bob?
Well, good evening, everybody. So hopefully this should be a fairly quick update because things are absolutely trending in the right direction. We have cumulatively, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have 321 cases in 326 cases in Chatham. We had 7 cases last month in May, and I'm happy to report as of 3:45 this afternoon, we have not had any cases reported so far in June. So that is continuing great news. We've had a total of 30 deaths in Chatham or of Chatham residents since the beginning of the pandemic, and we've had no deaths reported since March. So again, that continues to be great news. The latest update on the state on vaccination efforts as of last Thursday indicate that about 84% of the individuals in Chatham on a per capita basis have received at least 1 dose of vaccine. And as you're probably aware, it's the age 12 to 16, which is the newest group. And right now, the indications are about 40% of those have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. So all the information continues to trend in the right direction. Obviously, I think, we are keeping our eye on basically 2 weeks from Memorial Day weekend, because, even though Massachusetts has done really well with vaccinations, in terms of the percent of the population that have been vaccinated, we all know that Cape Cod's a destination community, and we get a lot of people here from other parts of the country where vaccination rates aren't as high. And so hopefully, by protecting our own people, we don't get any spillover impacts from that. So with that, other than, we've increased the availability of town offices. We're now basically available 5 days a week for appointments. And beginning on the 14th of May, which is next Monday, we will be reopening town offices in accordance with a plan that was presented to the Board of Selectmen at their meeting last week. And I believe your board was copied on it. If not, I will make sure you get a copy of that plan tomorrow or this afternoon, just so you can see. Yeah.
14th of June, Bob.
Sorry, 14th of June. Yes, you're right. Yeah, time continues to fly
Thank
by
you.
so quickly with this, even though it's, quote, starting to wind down a little bit. Yeah, 14th of June, we will reopen town offices to in-person activities, although we are obviously still encouraging people to, use email, use mail, use the various drop boxes and whatnot, and only come into town offices if they absolutely have to. And similar to our electronic message board, we will be asking people who are not fully vaccinated to wear a face mask when they come in the town offices, even though a significant portion of town employees have received the vaccine. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Bob, this is John. Are the town permit offices going to open on the 14th?
Probably. We will probably be reopening them on the 14th. We anticipate having someone kind of as a gatekeeper so that we don't end up, with 20 to 30 people in line like we used to in the lobby area.
Yep.
We will queue people up outside and then just let them in, probably 2 or 3 at a time. As you know, we now have our new online, sticker purchase system. So, it takes a few minutes to come in and give your information, have that entered in the computer, and then we print the stickers out right there. And then, as opposed to the old days where we had a pile of them and we just handed them out kind of thing. And we're looking to do the same thing at town offices. There's going to be someone staffing the reception desk at the town offices. And again, they will be kind of acting as a gatekeeper. The concern in town offices, as you can imagine, if you've been in there, is the area in front of the treasurer collector's office where there's really no space and no room to social distance or anything like that. So again, we're just going to kind of have somebody at that reception counter to kind of, manage the people that come in, and people that come in looking for the restrooms immediately direct them out to the back of the building and things like that. So, to try to cut down the number of people that are in town offices at any one time.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Any other questions for Bob on COVID?
well, this is Dick Edwards. What's the outlook for these meetings going live?
Right now, the Board of Selectmen is actually next week on the 15th, going to be doing a hybrid meeting where the board themselves are going to be in the meeting room, but the public and staff involvement will continue to be done virtually. Over the course of this pandemic, they have upgraded Channel 18's capabilities in the meeting room, the large meeting room, to allow these kind of hybrid meetings to continue. So right now they're gonna kind of test it out on the 15th and work out any bugs. So at this point, in terms of the Board of Health or some of the other regulatory boards, potentially sometime in July or early August. There is some legislation working its way through the State House that would allow towns to continue with these virtual meetings. Because there's been a lot of feedback that, public attendance has actually increased because no longer do people have to take time off from work or, run down to town hall to participate. So I suspect that what we're going to be seeing as we go over the next couple of months and into the fall is more of this kind of hybrid meeting where the board itself may be in the meeting room. Maybe the applicants, engineers, and attorneys present. But members of the public would be able to log in. They have a lot of new TV screens in the meeting room. So, you don't have to kind of turn your head or swivel your chair to see what's being projected on the screen anymore. I think, but we'll be seeing more of that in the next couple of weeks.
Other questions for Bob?
Yeah, Bob, this is Noble. Any preliminary idea of when the community center might open?
Right now, the community center is targeted to open the 29th of June. From, I think, don't quote me because I don't have the memo right in front of me. I think they are planning, if you give me a second, let me pull out the memo and I can tell you exactly. Let me see. The community center is going to open to the public on June 28th. And I believe that they're going to keep it closed in the morning because they have the summer youth program. And we're just trying to keep the kids kind of isolated from the rest of the general population because obviously some of the younger children are not yet eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. And some of the others have not yet received it. So it's going to be open to the general public from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then the summer youth program will have use of the building exclusively in the morning.
Okay.
And they will be open on Saturdays and Sundays for all ages, beginning the weekend after Labor Day. And that's all in the document that I can send you folks for the town's reopening that the Board of Selectmen reviewed and approved last week.
Okay.
As well as some information on the Council on Aging opening. The Council on Aging will be opening. They're going to continue pretty much what they've been doing because they already had their summer program pretty well already set before the changes. So they're going to continue primarily with virtual and outdoor programs for the course of the summer. And masks will be mandatory inside the building in COA just because they had a concern, obviously, for their older demographic that frequents that building and whatnot. So they just felt being proactive, and that'll be in place through the beginning of September, and then right after Labor Day, they'll reevaluate whether or not that mask requirement continues, and how they're going to transition a lot of their programs back to indoors.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, are you in a position right now to give the Board of Health just a brief overview and status report of the PFAS in well number 5 situation?
Yes, I was asked to do that, so I'd be happy to. So, as the board is aware, at least you should be, because I know you were copied on some recent correspondence. Last October, Mass DEP, well, PFAS, as it's broadly termed, has been in what's known as a contaminant of emergent concern for a decade or more. They're also called forever chemicals because they really don't degrade in the environment. EPA, the US EPA has set on a national level a public health advisory of 70 nanograms per liter, which is parts per trillion. But it's only a health advisory. They have not yet set a specific standard, say under the Safe Drinking Water Act. However, last October, Massachusetts did create a new regulation for PFAS, which set a 20 nanogram per liter or parts per trillion level in drinking water in Massachusetts. So roughly 3 times lower than the national EPA health advisory level. And Massachusetts also identified 6 of the PFAS chemicals that are of particular concern. So they're euphemistically called PFAS 6. As part of that regulation that was passed in October, various water systems, well, not various, all water systems had to start testing for PFAS on different schedules depending on the size of the system. Now, Chatham had tested for PFAS about a decade ago when it first became kind of the contaminant of concern, if you will. However, at that point in time, laboratory testing levels were nowhere near what they are today. And so based on the test results a decade ago, we didn't detect any PFAS in any of our drinking water supply wells. However, when the testing was done this year in April, in accordance with the DEP requirement, and I think it'd be easier if just for anybody that's calling in on the phone, if you could mute your phone, and you could do that by hitting *6 because we're getting some background noise. So once Chatham started doing that testing in April, we did get hits in 3 wells for PFAS 6. We got detections in Indian Hill Well, which has been offline, as you know, since the 1990s because of PCE contamination. We also got a hit in the Terrell's Way well, and we got a hit in Training Field well number 5. And the level in 2 of those, well, actually all 3, because there was any level detected at all, required that resampling take place. So resampling took place in all 3 of those wells, and unfortunately, the well number 5 at Training Field, the level actually went up. So the initial detection was at 28.7 nanograms per liter, and the subsequent test went up to 40.7. So when you take the average of the initial sample and the repeat sample, that well at number 5 at at Training Field came out at 34. That is above the DEP standard of 20 for the MCL, or the maximum contaminant level. So immediately upon notification, well number 5 was taken offline and not producing any water that was going into the distribution system. Because of the fact that we had that one well that was above the MCL of 20, it is not an MCL violation yet, because an MCL violation is part of the DEP regulation that went into effect. All the wells have to be sampled on a quarterly basis for the first year. And you don't get an MCL violation unless all the monthly samples in a quarter exceed the MCL. So we're not there yet. We're not into a violation component, but because of the fact we did have the one well which had the 2 hits, which averaged out above the MCL, Chatham has to do what's known as a public education document that follows a DEP protocol. They actually have a template that you use And that public education document has to be distributed to all users of the town's water system. And that can be done by direct mailing. It can be done by posting on the website and other methods. So that's what's currently in place. A draft of that document has been put together. It was reviewed by the Board of Selectmen last week. We made some final edits on it today. And then it's going off to a printer who will be able to print and distribute it before June 16th, which was our target date based on the DP regulations, based on when we were first notified of the results back in May, that the average was above the MCL. So well number 5 is offline, has been offline, and the town is looking at what alternatives do we have to make up that lost volume from well number 5, given the fact that we are going into the summer season. We are already in a drought situation. So one of the first things the Board of Selectmen did was they took the water conservation restrictions that had been put in place voluntarily. Those became mandatory. So we now have mandatory water conservation restrictions in place. And then a couple of the other things that the town has been looking into, obviously, we've been talking with DEP, we've been talking with the town's water consultant, which is Weston and Sampson. One of the things we're looking at is, can we blend well number 5 with well number 8, which is also a training field, and which actually had a non-detect for the first sample round. So can we blend the two of those wells together and get water to come out that is below the MCL? So that is currently being looked at. Samples were taken today of the blended water and sent off to the lab to make sure that if we do the blending, that the water is now below the MCL. We also looked at potentially buying water from Harwich, but as you can imagine, Harwich being the drought and going into the summer, they're in the same boat that we are. So while they may have some water that can be sold to us, we'd have to pay for it, and we'd be paying a premium just given the fact that, we're in a drought situation. We're also looking at reinstituting well number 4, which, as I mentioned, has been offline for PCE contamination since the 1990s. That well has been sampled on a regular basis over the last 20 years, and it appears that the PCE plume moved out of the capture area for the well. But over the last 12 days, they've been pumping that well to waste, and it was sampled today to confirm, in fact, that PCE contamination is no longer an issue. However, to activate well number 4 will require, it'll require KOH treatment. It will require chlorine treatment. The same thing we do with all our other wells. None of that infrastructure is currently in place, so it will take some time to get that well potentially back online. And so I just reviewed a contract earlier this afternoon with Weston and Sampson to do all the engineering and permitting to potentially get that well online in the short term. And in the short term, we're talking trying to get it online, say by the end of June, early July, so that we have the capability for the summer season, obviously, as demand is higher because of the drought. We're also looking at bringing on wells 10 and 11. Those are 2 wells up towards the Mill Pond area in the northwest corner of Chatham that were looked at a number of years ago. That is a well site. Preliminary testing was done. Casings were installed. The pumps weren't installed. The chemical feed buildings weren't built. But there is money currently available in a couple of previous town meeting appropriations to kind of jumpstart that and get going on bringing wells 10 and 11 online here. Obviously, what we're really trying to do, or one of the things we're trying to avoid here, is having to provide bottled water to high-risk populations. So, not that we won't do it if we have to, but if we can find some other ways to deal with this, that just is a logistics nightmare. It's costly and whatnot. So we're looking at all those things. Like I said, we just got a contract from Weston and Sampson to pursue those. The public education notice should be coming out, before the 16th of June. So that is a quick summary, and I apologize, it was very quick, but it's one of those things. There's a lot of moving pieces right now with this that the town and the water department and DEP and all are working on. So I will be happy to try and answer any questions I can for you.
Thank you, Bob. Seems to me, Judy, that we probably may want to carry this agenda item into our future meetings so that if there are any timely updates, the Board of Health can hear about them. That was pretty thorough, Bob. I have a much better understanding of not only what's happening, but how complex it is.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't touch on, John, is where did the PFAS come from? And unfortunately, PFAS is, if you've read anything about it at all, and DEP does have a couple of very good frequently asked questions documents on their website, which we will have links to, and I can send the board. PFAS is basically everywhere. The one area that has been highlighted on the Cape because of the Fire Training Academy in Barnstable and some of the issues with the Hyannis water system is firefighting foam, but it's also in non-stick clothing, non-stick cookware. It's in some electronic devices. So it is in pretty much everything that, people's use. And so, it's not just coming from wastewater treatment plants, but it's probably coming from all the individual septic systems and everywhere else. So it's one of those ubiquitous contaminants that, and unfortunately it's difficult to treat. Probably the best treatment for it is activated carbon, and that is one of the things we're looking at, is potentially either putting activated carbon on well number 5, but ultimately it may be the kind of thing that most public water supply wells across the country and even around the world may have to treat with something like activated carbon or reverse osmosis to deal with PFAS. So it's one of those things that's just so ubiquitous. It's hard to put a finger on where this particular, instance may be coming from. Some people said, oh, it's the airport firefighting foam, but the airport is actually down gradient to these wells. And it's not a commercial airport like Hyannis or Logan. Yes, they did use PFAS for firefighting foam for some training, but nowhere near to the extent, that some other places did. And the fact that we're not seeing it in well number 8, which is also a training field. Now they are at different levels in the aquifer, so that could be part of it. So anyway, it's very early in this process, and there's still a lot that we unfortunately just don't have answers to.
I'm amazed that we've evolved to the point where we have MCLs down to parts per trillion.
You're not the only one, because when I started my career in water quality, we were talking parts per million or parts per thousand, maybe occasionally a part per billion. But that was only in the research realm. And now we're routinely talking about contaminants in the parts per trillion.
And then the challenge then is characterizing what really is the health implication of something that is present at such a remarkably low concentration.
Right, exactly. It's one of those things. If you have to drink 1 million gallons of this water over the course of a year, nobody does that. But we still have to err on the side of caution and take all these proactive steps.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
I
Rich,
see, Dick, you're muted.
You're muted, Dick.
Sorry. It's about the idea of diluting the material out by blending another well with it. Is this really something that's an accepted way of dealing with a problem like this? I mean, if it were, then you could say, why don't we just test the water that's in the tap or in the standpipe and say we have no measurable contamination? Blending 2 wells together, is that really something that the government accepts as a way to deal with this problem?
You've asked me as a public health guy a very difficult question, but the short answer to your question is yes, blending is an accepted method to get it below the MCL. Now,
So
from a
just make sure
public,
the water out of my tap here, that's blended from all the wells.
yes, you're absolutely right, but the DEP regulation requires it be done at the source. You know, the public health side of this becomes just because you can blend it below, you know, to get it below the MCL, should you? And those are two different questions. And having been involved with the PC contamination in Indian Hill well back in the 90s, you know, I can tell you that the Board of Health and the public, even though it could have been blended as well to get below the MCL, that well's been offline for 20 years in direct response to public input about blending. So there's more to come on this story, and yeah. But blending is an approved way to get below the MCL. The question
Okay.
becomes, should you?
Yes. Thank you, Bob. Anyone else have any questions they want to pose at this time?
Yeah,
No.
it's Noble. So, and follow up to what Dick said, the tap water is blended water from all the wells. These wells don't go to specific areas of the town. Is that correct?
Yes and no. Obviously, if you're near the South Chatham well field, the majority of your water would probably come from the South Chatham well field. If you're on the east side of town, you're getting more of an absolute blended water from all the wells just because of the, you know, your proximity to any of the wells. Right now, you know, because well 5 is offline, none of the PCE from well 5 is going into the town system. But yeah, it'd be kind of a mix depending on how close you are. You know, if you're the first house coming off a main right after the well, probably most of your water is going to come from that well. But at periods of high demand, water reverses direction, and you know, it could be coming from other parts of town. So it varies.
Okay, and then Bob, one other question. I don't want to put you on the spot, but just you know, I think a simple thought for most people would be that the groundwater, the aquifer is all just one big pool, and they would say, well, why, if it's in one well, why isn't it going to be in all the wells? But you described different levels of aquifer. Do these wells actually draw water from separate groundwater bodies of water?
They're all one aquifer, but there's what we call a surface aquifer and a confined aquifer. All the wells, to give you an example, all the wells in South Chatham are extremely shallow. They are all in the surface aquifer. All right. But some of our other wells, some of our newer wells are actually much deeper, down around 100 feet or more, and they are below a confining layer. So there may be a layer of clay in between that upper surface aquifer and the lower, deeper aquifer. So you could have two wells in close proximity to each other at different depths, pulling from different aquifers. And that's why that, you know, I suspect that's one of the reasons why we may be seeing it in one well and not seeing it in the other, that are only separated by, say, a couple of 100 feet.
And then what is well number the one that's been closed, that was recently closed, which is whatever. But
Well,
is that, what aquifer does that draw from?
Well number 4, I don't have the specific numbers right in front of me, but I believe well number 4 at Indian Hill is one of our deeper wells and is pulling from the deeper aquifer. But don't quote me on that. I don't have the actual. I do have a figure. I have a table, but I don't have it with me of all the well depths.
And the Training Field Road well, that's the one that just closed. Is that a shallow or deep?
Number 5, the one that closed, is shallower than number 8, which is also a training field, but it's deeper.
Yeah. So we don't really know how it's going to spread.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
John, I think Carol has her hand up.
I didn't notice that. Okay. Carol Boyce, you've got the floor.
I was wondering, does the Board of Health have a map of where the wells are located?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. And I actually shared that with the Board of Selectmen last week when a question came up. I'd be happy to send that out to the board.
That'd be useful.
Thank you.
All right, are we done discussing this issue for now?
Dick
like-
and Noble still have their hands up, but I'm assuming those
Oh,
are just old ones.
They didn't put their hands down.
Mine's over. I guess, this is Noble, I guess, I don't, somebody mentioned it, but, or I think Dick did. What's the responsibility for making all these decisions? I gather it's an overlap between the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health? Or is it Health Department and Board of Selectmen?
It's really the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, which, as you probably know, are the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
You know, we're trying to keep you guys informed of everything, and obviously, you know, you're counsel to the Water and Sewer Commissioners at, you know, when at the appropriate times when they're discussing it. That's why I gave, you know, I sent you guys out the notice before last week's Board of Health, before the Select Board meeting, in case you wanted to listen in or review the materials that were in their packet last week. You know, to kind of give you a heads up so you wouldn't be all of a sudden, you know, we're getting calls or you're getting calls about what this is all about.
But Bob, this is John. Bob, a lot of the protocols and the resampling is all embodied in either the Safe Drinking Water Act at the federal level or at the DEP at the state level. So aren't there all kinds of decision trees that are offered as guidance?
Yes, yes. DEP has extensive information, which I'd be happy to send to you. Like I say, they have a frequently asked questions sheet. They actually have a very confusing flow chart, if you will, that, you know, is to me, it's extremely difficult to follow, but it, you know, it just outlines how complex this all is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yes, everything is basically prescribed in the state drinking water regulation, and that's what we're currently following, what they need us to do when we need to do it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, then let's move on to the next order of business, which I'm assuming is the reading of the minutes or the approval of the minutes for our May 17th, 2021 Board of Health meeting. Does any member have any edits or comments or corrections in that May 17th summary? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 17th?
Ed Sheehan, approved.
Thank you, Ed. Can I get a second?
Carol, second.
Thank you, Carol. All right, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion to approve the minutes of May 17th. Dr. Noble Hanson,
approve?
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce.
Approve.
I vote to approve. John Beckley. Dr. Alan Ward. Dr. Dick Edwards.
Approve.
Okay, so the minutes of May 17th have been approved. I guess we're at the end of the meeting, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Ed Sheehan,
Can I get a second to adjourn?
Noble, second?
Okay, thank you, Noble. Okay, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Adjourn?
Ed Sheehan,
approve.
Carol Boyce.
Adjourn.
I vote to adjourn. Dr. Alan Ward, Dr. Dick Edwards.
Adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance and your participation.